Hey folks, it's Rob and welcome back. We're continuing our series today on the Dungeons and Dragons Expert Rulebook. Yes. Welcome to part 4. Last time when we were here, we were reading about the changes and expansion to the Cleric class. And we were in the midst of the spells, and we had just finished reading about functionally the second level spells. So today we're going to move forward into the third level spells and so on and so forth. So, third and fourth. And this is going to cover, an increasing amount of stuff that's not been previously covered in these rules. And as you can see, we have plenty to talk about. Let's get started. Third level clerical spells. Continual light. As you can see, it's got an asterisk on it. Range 120 feet. Duration permanent, hence continual. Effect sphere of light 60 foot across. This spell creates light as bright as daylight in a spherical volume of 30-foot radius. It lasts until a dispel magic or a continual darkness spell is cast upon it. Creatures penalized in bright daylight, such as goblins, suffer the same penalties as within this spell effect. If cast upon an opponent's eyes, the victim must make a saving throw versus spells or be blinded until the effect is removed. This spell may be cast either as an area or upon an object. Reverse of this spell, continual darkness, creates a completely dark volume of the same size. Torches, lanterns, and even a light spell will not affect it, and infravision cannot penetrate it. If cast on a creature's eyes, the creature must make a saving throw versus spells or be blinded until the spell is removed. So in either case, it will blind an opponent. And it's kind of nasty to permanently blind somebody with a continual light spell or a continual darkness spell. Please note that the infravision does not penetrate the darkness, and that this effect is semi-permanent. And, this is you're not super high level at this point. I mean, yeah, you're able to cast third level spells. You're a level 6 cleric. But you're able to functionally make magic items at this point of just light, right? You can cast... A common adventurer trick is to cast it onto a pebble, onto a coin, and then be able to put that away. And sometimes they have small cases made. Sometimes they just put them into pockets or into bags. As long as it's a thick enough outer covering, I would say it certainly hides the light away. And in the meantime, you can just use it as a light source. And this immediately practically replaces torches in a lot of ways for the team. Now, torches still have their advantages in that they are, actually on fire at the time. But continual light, very useful. Next we have, ironically, cure blindness. Range is touch, duration permanent. One effect is one living creature. This spell will cure nearly any form of blindness, including those caused by light or darkness spells, whether normal or continual. It will not, however, affect blindness caused by a curse. Now, the curse is italicized because that is a curse spell we're talking about, which we will get to, I believe. Cure disease. This one is reversible. And, cause disease, probably a bit more evil, right? As opposed to just like cause darkness. Although, I can certainly see the heresy involved in cause darkness. Cure disease, range 30 foot, so you don't actually have to touch the diseased person. Effect duration permanent. Effect one living creature within range. The spell will cure any living creature of one disease, such as those caused by a mummy or green slime. If cast by a cleric of 11th level or greater, this spell will cure lycanthropy. So there is a cure for those werewolves out there who need to stop being werewolves. Or werebowlers, or, whatever version of a creature you happen to be. Were-rat looking at you. Reverse of this spell, cause disease, infects the victim with a hideous wasting disease unless a saving throw versus spell is made. A disease victim has a -2 penalty on all hit rolls. In addition, the victim's wounds cannot be magically cured, and natural healing takes twice as long as usual. The disease is fatal in 2 to 24 days unless removed by a cure disease spell. So, even though they can recover some health points during this time, and that's clearly 2d12 number of days. They will die at the end of that time, unless the disease is cured. Right? It's not contagious. No one else is going to get the disease off that victim, but they will die unless cured. And fortunately, you're going to have to find a 6th level cleric or higher to be able to do that, or some other means of removing the disease, such as a scroll, right? Growth of animal. Range 120 feet. Duration 12 turns. That's, not a small amount of time. It's 2 hours. Effect, doubles the size of one animal. Note, doubles. You can't get giant space hamsters from regular hamsters. You just get somewhat bigger hamsters. Okay? Spell doubles the size of one normal or giant animal. The animal then has twice its normal strength and inflicts double normal damage. It may also carry twice as much normal encumbrance. This spell does not change an animal's behavior, armor class, or hit points, and does not affect intelligent animal races or fantastic creatures. Probably handy to use with Speak with Animals, honestly. But, if you happen to have a actual giant space hamster, you could make it pretty big. The party might have a dog, for example. Trained dogs weren't uncommon in Advanced Dungeons & Dragons as camp guards and additional combatants in the party, potentially. Or other trained creatures. So, doubling the size of the animal to double its damage. All right, if you're okay with that kind of behavior. Sometimes, my sensibility is like, maybe we don't want to endanger the animals that way. But, maybe they're evil. Maybe they don't care. Maybe they're a bunch of murder hobos, your party. Locate object. Range 0. So only affects only the cleric. Duration 6 turns. It's an hour. Effect, detect one object within 120 feet of the cleric. This spell allows the cleric to sense the direction of one known object. It gives no information about distance. A common object, such as stairs leading up, can be detected. Otherwise, the cleric must know exactly what the object looks like, size, shape, color, etc. Spell will not locate a creature. So the idea is, like, say, for example, you were to be looking for a particular brooch, right? A stolen brooch. You need to know what it looks like. Being general isn't going to help you, unless it's a general item. Stairs leading up, as example, that's fairly general. If you're just looking for a brooch, it will find you brooches, right? It'll, be more specific than that. Golden brooch with a ruby, golden brooch with a carved star sapphire in it. But this is potentially useful and also potentially not terribly useful, as it works for an hour and within 120 feet. You can search a building pretty readily this way, or maybe a way out of a particular location. But I guess I've just not had a lot of luck with locate object. But it is one of those utility box spells that clerics have. Remove curse. Note the reversible. Range touch. Duration permanent. Effect removes any one curse. Well, you don't say. This spell removes one curse, whether on a character, item, or area. Some curses, especially those on magic items, may only be temporarily removed for a short time. DM's discretion, requiring a dispel evil spell for permanent effect or possibly a remove curse cast by a high-level cleric or magic user. The reverse of the spell, curse, causes a misfortune or penalty to affect the victim. Curses are limited only by the caster's imagination, but if an attempted curse is too powerful, it may return to the caster, DM's discretion. Safe limits to curses may include -4 penalty on hit rolls, -2 penalty on saving throws, prime requisite reduced to 1/2 normal. Victim may make a saving throw versus spells to avoid the curse. And, you want to let the player be creative, but at the same time, it's not like a they die button, right? That's much later. This is just misfortune, right? Affliction, something like that. Speak with the dead. Yes. Level 6 clerics can speak with the dead. Because a corpse is a corpse, of course. Range 10 foot. So you got to be nearby, but not on top of. You don't have to actually be in contact with the corpse, as you can see in this lovely illustration by Elmore here. In fact, let's just make sure the entire thing's on the screen. There you go. Get the whole thing. Okay. Range 10 foot. Duration, 1 round per level of the cleric, so you can take some time asking your questions, because you have to be at least level 6 to be able to cast this spell. So it's at least 6 rounds, if not more, later. Effect, cleric can ask 3 questions. They actually demonstrated this in the most recent Dungeons & Dragons movie, if you caught it. And it ran pretty much as you might expect a player encounter using this spell to use it. By means of this spell, a cleric may ask 3 questions of a deceased spirit if the body is within range. A cleric of up to 7th level may only contact spirits recently dead up to 4 days. Clerics level 8 to 14 have slightly more power, up to 4 months dead. Level 15 to 20 even more, up to 4 years dead. No time limit applies to clerics of 21st level or greater. Spirit will always reply in a tongue known to the cleric, but can only offer knowledge of things up to the time of its death. In the spirit's alignment is the same as the cleric's, clear and brief answers will be given. However, if the alignments differ, the spirits may reply in riddles, which can get tricksome for the DM, but, try to think of what you're going to say if this is going to be a thing that's going to happen. Improving riddles is not necessarily going to be your forte, let me warn you. But, don't turn it into a game of 20 questions. The players have 3 questions. They need to ask distinct questions and receive distinct answers. They are to be as truthful as possible, but, you can try to hide some of what the facts are with the riddle if they're not the same alignment, that kind of thing, right? Striking. Range, 30 feet. Duration, 1 turn. 10 rounds. 10 minutes. Effect 1d6 bonus to damage on 1 weapon. This spell allows any 1 weapon to inflict 1d6 additional points of damage per attack, like a magical staff of striking. The weapon will inflict this extra damage for as long as the spell lasts. The bonus does not apply to hit rolls. If cast on a normal weapon, creatures affected only by magic weapons may be hit for 1d6 points of damage per strike, regardless of the weapon. Only the magical damage applies in such cases. So if you're using this because, you've encountered a wight, for example, or some other more powerful undead creature or extraplanar creature, this is a way to get some damage into the system for even a non-magical weapon wielder. You, of course, need to have this spell ready to be able to use that in that circumstance, just as any other spell here. You need to be prepared to use these. But, it's not bad in your box of tools, right? If the party lacks magic weapons, if the party lacks options, this is an option. 4th level clerical spells. A fan favorite, Animate Dead. again, the composition of your party may or may not be all into this or avoiding it. Range, 60 foot. Duration, permanent. Effect, creates zombies or skeletons. Now, to cast 4th level spells, you're going to need, I think, to be level 8, is it? Yes, that's right. I just had a quick look. Don't mind me. I have 2 things open. So yeah, you have to be at least 8th level to create these, and again, this is a form of creating, actually kind of like making permanent magic items, in that you are animating skeletons and zombies into existence. And they don't go away until they're defeated or turned or destroyed by turning, right? Carrying onward. Sorry for the digressions, but this is what you tune in for, I think. More than anything else. I hope so. If I'm wasting your time, I'm sorry. This spell allows the caster to create animated enchanted skeletons or zombies from normal skeletons or dead bodies within range. These animated undead creatures will obey the cleric until they are destroyed by another cleric or a dispel magic spell. For each level of the cleric, 1 hit die of undead may be animated. A skeleton has the same hit dice as the original creature, but a zombie has 1 hit die more than the original. Zombie levels are not counted. Character levels are not counted. The remains of a 9th level thief would be animated as a zombie with 2 hit dice. Animated creatures do not have any spells, but are immune to sleep and charm effects and poison, just like any other undead. Lawful clerics must take care to use this spell only for a good purpose. Animating the dead is usually a chaotic act. And this is not a reversible spell. You can't use it to deanimate the dead. Looking at you, Mr. Welsh. Create water. Range, 10 feet. Duration, 6 turns. Effect, creates 1 magical spring. With this spell, the cleric summons forth an enchanted spring from the ground or a wall. The spring will flow for an hour, creating enough water for 12 men and their mounts for that day, about 50 gallons. For each of the cleric's level above 8, water for 12 additional men and mounts is created. And then we get to our second actual healing spell, where we heal actual damage. We haven't seen one of these in a while, have we? Cure serious wounds. Range, touch. Duration, permanent. Note it's reversible. Affect any one living creature. This spell is similar to Cure Light Wounds spell, but it will cure 1 creature of 4 to 14 points of damage. That is 2d6 plus 2. Reverse of this spell, Cause Serious Wounds, causes 4 to 14 points of damage to any creature or character touched. No saving throw. Caster must make a normal hit roll to cause the serious wound. So you have to roll the d20 and hit your target, and they may be dodging. There may be a variance granted for the fact that you only need to make contact. The simulationist nature versus basically the way we try to, make the gameplay reasonably balanced between trying to reflect variances based on different capabilities and armor and all that stuff versus that it's that whole AC versus hit point thing, right? AC armor class reflects not just the ability to hit the target, but to injure the target in a reasonable and permanent way. Making contact, you quite often do, actually. But the hit is a glancing blow. It is off the shield, that kind of thing, right? Hence, sometimes you'll want to make an attack actually on AC 9, maybe with dexterity adjustments if they're expecting you, right? If you're actually in combat. It says it's not an automatic hit. Cure Light Wounds, theoretically, you're just only using that on targets that want to be cured, so there's no strike roll. But if you were trying to apply it to someone that didn't want it done to them, I would argue the same applies. Dispel magic finally shows up. Again, you have to be an 8th level cleric at least to be able to cast Dispel magic. Range 120 feet. Duration permanent. Effect destroys spells in a 20-foot cube. Not really, it can do more than that usually. This spell destroys other spell effects in a cubic volume of 20 foot by 20 foot by 20 foot. Its spell does not affect magic items. So, not going to wipe the scrolls, not going to wipe the potions out. Spell effects created by a caster, whether a cleric, magic user, or elf, are of a level equal to or lower than the caster of the Dispel magic spell, are automatically and immediately destroyed. Spell effects created by a higher level caster may not be affected. Chance of failure is 5% per level of difference between the casters. For example, a 7th level cleric trying to dispel a web spell cast by a 9th level magic user would have a 10% chance of failure. Now, I'm going to repeat, going by this odd example, that you have to be level 4 to cast this spell from memorization. But it is possible that you'd be casting it from a scroll, but then the scroll should have a certain level it was written as. I'm a bit curious about this example here in the text, right? But they're using a difference for illustration purposes. It's fine. It still conveys what it's trying to tell you. And that is the 2-level difference between the caster trying to dispel and the caster who casts the spell you're trying to dispel results in a 10% chance of failure. So, if there's 10 levels of difference between them, that has a 50% chance the dispel doesn't work. But, dispel magic, yeah, it's in that toolbox of spells you probably want to have on hand. But it doesn't work as like a counter spell, right? The spell that the opponent cast happens, and then you cast your dispel magic. Either is going to happen first, and obviously you can't dispel a magic spell before it's cast, so it's always going to be after the fact. Neutralize poison, note reversible. Range touch. Duration permanent. Effect a creature, container, or object. This spell will make poison harmless, either in a creature, a container, such as a bottle, or on one object, such as a chest. It will even revive a victim slain by poison if cast within 10 rounds of the poisoning. The spell will affect any and all poisons present at the time it is cast, but does not cure any damage, and will thus not revive poisoned victim who has died of wounds. The reverse of this spell, create poison, it may be cast by touch on a creature or container. It cannot be cast on any object. A victim must make a saving throw versus poison or be immediately slain by the poison. If cast on a container, the contents become poisoned. No saving throw applies, even for magical containers or contents such as potions. Poisoning is usually a chaotic act, you don't say. Protection from evil 10-foot radius. Range 0. That's right, there's no range on this. Duration 12 turns. So, 2 hours. Effect barrier in a 20-foot diameter. So that's 10-foot radius or 20 feet wide sphere, right? This spell creates an invisible magical barrier around the caster extending 10 feet in all directions. Spell serves as a protection from evil attacks by monsters of an alignment other than the caster's. Each creature within the barrier gains +1 to all saving throws, and all attacks against those within are penalized by -1 to the attacker's hit roll while the spell lasts. In addition, enchanted creatures cannot attack those within the barrier hand to hand. Enchanted creatures can attack with missile or magical attacks, however. An enchanted creature is any creature that is magically summoned, animated, or controlled, such as with a charm spell, or can only be hit by a magical weapon. Creatures that can be hit by silver weapons are not enchanted. So, not lycanthropes, unless the lycanthrope is charmed, right? If anyone within the barrier attacks an enchanted creature, and that's anyone, the barrier will no longer prevent the creature from attacking hand to hand, but the bonus to saving throws and penalty to hit rolls will still apply. So it's kind of like Super Bless. And that's nice that way. And the actual complete protection from some creatures is very worthwhile in that you can pass by, an undead creature, a summoned djinn that's protecting an area. It can be quite strong in effect. But leave it to one of your murder hobos to go and break the spell on the greater air elemental and buy you all a hard time. Speak with plants. Range 0, cleric only. Duration 3 turns. Effect, all plants within 30 feet. Yes, you can speak with plants. Yes, you have to be at least a level 8 cleric to speak with the plants. This spell enables the cleric to talk to plants as if they were intelligent. A simple favor may be requested and will be granted if it is within the plant's power to understand and perform. This spell may be used to allow the cleric or party to pass through otherwise impenetrable undergrowth. It will also allow communication with plant-like monsters, such as treants. So there you go. Now, I'm going to point out to you, because we've had a few animal and nature-based spells, and that is, there's functionally no druid at this stage of the game. There are druids introduced later. They're very unusual and very limited, but they do exist in Beckme. But functionally, you don't need to be a druid to be able to cast things like speak with plants, talk with animals, that kind of thing. Stick to snakes. Sticks to snakes is actually a somewhat popular spell, despite how high a level it is. Range 120 feet. Duration 6 turns. Effect up to 16 sticks. This spell turns 2 to 16 sticks into snakes, detailed below. The snakes may be poisonous, 50% chance per snake. They obey the cleric's commands, but will turn back into sticks when slain or when the duration ends. The snakes generated are Armor Class 6, Hit Dice 1, Move 90 foot, 30 foot in combat, Attack 1, its damage is 1d4, Save as Fighter 1, Alignment neutral because it's a snake. It's 50% chance it's poisonous. Work out how you want it to be poisonous depending on your game. You're the DM. It's not specified, but quite often poison in this level is save versus death. I've said before when we were going through the basic set that I actually prefer damage type poisons because players seem to think it's a bit unfair that they save and die versus they died from damage from poison. But, your game, you do your thing. Wow, we're approaching a half hour and I have a page and a half of spells to go. I was hoping to clean up Cleric right now. We have finished level 4 spells. And I guess that's where we're going to stop. And I'll have to finish Cleric next time because we have level 5 and level 6 spells still to go. And you're like, what is this lovely spell being depicted here? Well, you're going to find out, right? But not right now because I'm out of time. Sorry. Have a great day. Thank you ever so much for spending your time with me today. I know you have a lot of options. If you like this content, please hit the like button. If you want to be notified of stuff like this, please subscribe or hit that notification button. But again, thank you ever so much. Have a great day. Goodbye.